What you read here is the name of God, and it is a word in Hebrew, and the letters start from the right to the left. So if you read it, it is Yud-Heh-Vah-Heh, and this is the name of God. And what I did earlier was simply to pronounce the letters. I was not pronouncing the full name. In fact, nobody really knows how to pronounce that full name verbally. And why is that so? It's because this word is simply made of consonants. There are no vowels included in the word, and therefore we don't really know how to pronounce the word, the name itself. And from my own personal research, I know that it is not good to pronounce that name. We shouldn't try to pronounce that name. There are those who desire to pronounce that name. And the reason why they want to pronounce that name is because they feel that they are closer to God when they pronounce that name. And it's natural for us to think this way, of course, because when we know the name of a person, we pronounce his name, it's like getting closer to him. However, the problem is that God is not a man. Neither is he a being or a person out there. God is within and without. God is everywhere. In my own personal spiritual journey, I believe that God has no name. However, the first question in your mind is this: if God has no name, then why did he give us a name? This is a very good question, but it's a question that cannot be answered satisfactorily to you. And why is that so? It is because you're not deep enough to understand the spirituality of the name. And therefore it is wiser on your part not to call him with a name, because the name that you want to call him with, although you would spell it in Hebrew, or although you would put it in whatever way you call him, is not his name. And if it is not his name, and you call him by a name which is not his name, it amounts to blasphemy, right? The Jewish rabbis know this, and that's why the Jewish rabbis recommend all the Jews never to use the name of God. And I concur with them fully. In my spiritual journey of life, I realized that the name of God is only understood from within the breath. And you can call that name only from within the breath. And if you call that name otherwise than the breath, you are not calling that name. It is really hard to understand this, because you are trying to understand what I'm saying intellectually. Well, if you know what is breath within you, you will kind of understand what I'm trying to say. Therefore, if a man does not know how to speak from the breath, let him not call the name of God. If we therefore do not have a name for this one God, then how do we refer to him? I mean, I can call you by a name, but how can I call God by a name? For all practical purposes, it is best that we use a placeholder. And the word God is actually a placeholder. Whenever I'm using the word God, I'm using it as a placeholder. To me, the word God does not represent an entity out there. Instead, it's just a placeholder for you and me. I know probably you'll get a bit confused here, but that's what it is. The word God is a placeholder. You need to fill that word with yourself. You need to fill up the placeholder with the name that you can find within yourself. Again, it sounds so confusing, but that's the best I could say. When we understand God as a placeholder, the reality of life began to fit very well together. But the problem is that even the concept that God is a placeholder is very hard to comprehend. I will need some time to explain to you in my other videos. Just for now, it is good on your part to understand that God is a placeholder. Okay, so now let's go back to this name, the Tetragrammaton. Now, Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh are the Hebrew letters. Each of these letters have got a meaning in itself. The first letter, Yud, is somewhat a singular point. And indeed it is so, because all life begins from that one singular point. And the second letter is He, which means breathe. In other words, Yud-He means the singular point breathes. Now let's proceed to the third letter. The third letter is Va, which is the light. And the fourth letter again is He. So if you put them all together, it means the singular point breathe and the light breathes. Well, I guess it is tough, right? Very tough to understand what it's all about. But reality means exactly just that. Reality means that that singular point breathes, and all of us, which are the light, we also breathe in tandem. And light means man, and we are all that light. And if therefore we can breathe in tandem with the singular point that breathes, only then are we calling the name of God. And therefore for you as a man, if you want to breathe in tandem with God, you have to know the presence within you, the singular point, and you have to breathe in tandem with the singular point so that you can breathe the breath of God. Yes, and if you can do that, then you have called upon His name. You see, what I've just described is a true journey of a man to God. It should be very clear to you that the journey to God is not about reading a book. It's not about saying a prayer when we are in need. But it is about going deep into yourself, going to where existence is, going to where the beginning of everything begins. And it's a very serious thing. And there's nothing to be proud of. Nothing to be proud because nobody can see you being holy, if that's what matters to you. Joining a grouping of people, being a member of a group won't help because it makes no difference here, since it's an inward journey. But of course, 2-person, 3-person, a gathering of people can help each other by talking about it, by discussing and encouraging each other along that journey. But in the finality, it is you and God alone. The terms that are used may be very unfamiliar to you here. That is only because God is a mystery, a far greater mystery than you ever could think of. And the mystery is entirely because it is from within. It is easy for a man to see what is outside himself, but it's very difficult for a person to look within. And it is a mystery because you are looking within. A natural person prefers to look outside with his eyes, but he doesn't look inside within himself, does he? However, God is within and not outside you.